people here, souls here, you're also stuck in a concept of this reality being the only reality, even though we may tell ourselves that there are other realities. We can't wrap our minds around that. And so we tend to we've conditioned ourselves to be able to only accept this. And so we can't fathom anything that could be beyond or outside the scope of this. And then, of course, your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs say that it's not possible and that you are going to live, there's eternal life after death. Yes. You see, so that's brought in. So even the Egyptians, and you trace all these ancient civilizations, there's always this thing about the afterlife or somehow trying to harness or remember the possibility of immortality. And look at the mummification process. Look at the preservation of the body that they were doing for the afterlife. They forgot. They were all just simply trying to remember what to do. How does this work? So here we are, and we are on rewind again. And I'm saying to you that this is not the case. And many people actually, Heinrich, a lot of the people from your listeners that contacted me, I mean, and even outside of that, I'm just amazed at people who are happy to come out the closet on saying to me, you know what? I've always wondered about that. Something about it didn't make sense to me, but they couldn't because everybody else agreed to the fact that this death process must occur. The commercials, everything we've got going is advertising funeral homes, your billboards. When you step out, when you really allow yourself to step out of this matrix, you can see how bizarre it is. It's as if you're in this virtual world, which you are, but you actually feel yourself in this virtual game, and you're scratching your head, and you're like, does anybody else realize how bizarre this is? The funeral home commercials, the buy your plot now. There's just something very bizarre, and if we could just snap out of it.
And even the idea of this constant stay young advertising that is all the time, cosmetics, whatever it might be, that also sends a subliminal that, you are getting old all the time. It almost like it's programming the body to become old because of it.
It is. After age 50, I see it on TV, and it's after age 50, 55. They promote that, and they promote the fact that you're going to start needing to take medication. So there is this ongoing program as you go along from the minute you arrive here in this concept of time, right through to a certain age. They start to remind you, and people even panic when they hit 30. 30 years old, I mean, my God, even 100 years old is technically nothing. How do we know that there aren't people living on other pockets of the planet that aren't living way longer? In the Himalayas, they had those people living there that nobody died before 145 or something.
Right.
So there's a lot that's going on that we do not see, do not hear about, and of course those people are not really trying to make themselves known. But the human body is amazing. That's the reason why they're digging into the stem cell research.
Well,
because
exactly.
The stem cell, says it all. If we really look at that, you can actually activate or get your stem cells to replace and be whatever cells, limbs, whatever it is that needs to be. They actually have mentioned that concept, very little, but they've mentioned it based on the thought, the idea of the thought process, activating this. So unless you go digging for yourself, you're going to there's a group of people who are busy trying to figure this out and working it. So we have to get to that point where we can accept the fact that, we need to expand our perception, and that information will start coming into you. It starts to override the programs. But if you don't question, or if you buy into this, the programs will continue to be there and it won't be able to be overridden. So it's all up to the individual with creating this activation.
Do you think that, if we look at some of the poster boys for life extension programs like Ray Kurzweil, Craig Venter, or Bertie Gray, they're talking about getting to extended life through what I consider to be, in some regard, kind of the artificial means. They're looking at genetic manipulation, growth hormone, different drugs and things like that. Do you think that that's a shortcut, that they actually will succeed in that? What I'm seeing at this point is that they might not actually, they don't have the full picture, if you know what I mean, in a sense. They don't bring what it seems like to me, they don't bring in the spiritual aspect to this, meaning that they probably won't succeed. But what's your take?
No, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you because, again, because it's all technology, there's an aspect there that has to be incorporated into that kind of transitioning, that kind of shift that takes place within the physical body, because that shift that's taking place in the physical body is very much associated with the shift in one's consciousness. So we're talking about the vibration of one's consciousness shifting. And the other aspect of that, when I was talking about not living long enough, because you need to acquire knowledge. Knowledge is, that is so key, because that's what turns the body on. That's what lets the brain take the message of saying that this being is not ready to die. This being is discovering, and so the brain starts to allow other aspects of it, other compartments of it, to be accessible to you and to be utilized. If you are not acquiring knowledge, you're saying to your body, your brain says, well, there's nothing else other than programs, and it's time for me to shut down. You are operating off of the vibration of the evolution of your consciousness. If your consciousness is not evolving from a, like as I said, from a vibrational standpoint, because now we're not talking fluffy stuff, we're talking science.
Right.
If it's not expanding, knowledge is not expanding, then it's going to affect what? It's going to affect the chemical production in the body, in the brain, that actually keeps the body young and keeps the body from dying. Because you need to be here long enough to acquire a certain level of knowledge to create that kind of shift in consciousness.
Well,
I hope that was clear.
Well, I think that's a very good point, and to emphasize is that what you're talking about is that you can't just live life for the purpose of living it longer. You have to have a meaning to your own life, right? You have to find something in life that you feel is worth making your life worth living, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what makes the big shift, however, people can extend their lives. I've seen it even on Yahoo, talking about seniors and going out and doing learning something new, how it helps to keep them going. Yeah. But if you are indeed saying to yourself, I really am ready in this time to really move into that kind of evolution, then what will need to occur is you will need to start digging into the idea of who you are, and digging into the idea of creation, because that's what unlocks the door. We can go ahead and we can learn different things, and sure, it's going to keep us going, but you have to start acquiring a grander level of knowledge, which means that you are gradually returning yourself, or should I say, you're gradually grabbing larger and larger pieces or aspects of yourself as source. Because that's what you're doing. Every time your consciousness expands, you're actually grabbing a little bit more of the vastness that you are. But obviously you cannot harness that full vastness of what we are, because you do it in stages according to the the reality and the awareness that you have at that moment and what you will need to do at that moment. And obviously, if we were here in that expansiveness that we are, as the void, as creation, there would be no need to be here and nothing would exist.
Yeah.
So I think we have to look at that and not beat up on the process, but realize, okay, so this is what happened. So I'm here and I get it now. I did all this because there's no way that I could, gather data for my experiment if I remembered everything. So I've done this and I'm ready to step it up so that I can move forward in creating something else beyond this particular experience. And until someone is ready to actually do that, there's no one that can shift you for you. And this whole thing was designed like that. The body was designed with a fail-safe mechanism. And that's the reason why no matter how some groups may try to do it, unless there is a particular frequency and a particular intention involved, they will only get so far. And that's when, of course, why it is necessary for us to go through the process where we understand the concept of feeling and the concept of judgment and all of those concepts so that we operate more in resonance and there is no fear of you harming another person because your ego isn't involved. That's the only reason why we do what we do to each other, is because there's some ego involved, and so there's always that balancing act that we do. Yet it's all characters. Everybody's a character, and we couldn't each have our show without each other playing a particular role. So yes. This is the game.
When you speak of knowledge as well, I have two questions that I want to ask you about that. First of all, do you think that that's our purpose, if you will, to gather data, gather knowledge? And the second one is, do you think that knowledge that we do gather during our lifetime is in some way kind of, I don't know how to put it, wasted when someone dies? Or do you think that people alive can utilize or kind of access that knowledge?
Yes, your first question, yes, I do believe that is the whole purpose of existence, is to allow existence, to allow that force that is to be all potentials that could possibly be. It doesn't matter that the outcome is known, the experience must be had. And so that is the gathering of data. Every time I have a feeling, an emotion, or whatever the case may be, that's an experience, and that gets uploaded to the whole. So that information about everything, that's the reason why it all exists there in the quantum field. You can access anything at any given time. And as you asked the question about when someone dies, nothing is wasted. It's all there. It's sort of like sound, because the sound stops in our third dimensional ear. It doesn't mean that sound has stopped. It continues to ripple, throughout whatever we call time or existence.
Yes.
Same thing with those experiences. They're there, and as a matter of fact, we reach into those experiences sometimes because those thoughts they're floating around out there. And it's like someone who has an idea for an invention and you don't do anything with it. I guarantee you will see it somewhere. Everything gets picked up. There's really nothing is really hidden like we think. Everything is out there. It's all radio waves. And just because someone dies, it doesn't mean that frequency of the experience is lost. And not only that individual or that soul more than likely is still somewhat tied to those experiences. So you still have that soul in association with those particular experiences, especially if it's unfinished business, which is how we end up back in this cycle again. Even though past, present, and future does exist simultaneously, you're always going to find a way to resolve and to live out these understandings or these experiences and create balance. At some point you evolve, beyond that. Now, this is we're really only talking about our experiences as human beings
Yes.
and our journey as human beings, because obviously